sell the book at all the places where they sell good, top quality books. Is that right?
Yeah, it's you'll find it in all the usual places. Amazon carries it, and most Christian bookstores will all carry it as well.
Gary, but before you came on the show here today, we were talking about the what John and I found to be fantastic about the Mars rover and the kind of sense of the accomplishment, the technological accomplishment of landing that thing and having it come apart, and there are so many great things that in the last 100 years have developed in modern day life, and there's a very deep sense of a positive and imaginative and incredible future that happens for humankind in a lot of ways. How do you place the understanding of a deeply contextual understanding of the Jesus message from 2,000 years back, and then from there as a part of maybe a 4,000 or 5,000 year cultural history, and frankly of kind of faith that's not even accessible any longer? And I mean, I'll ask you about how we can get glimpses of this through other traditions and other faiths, but that kind of first century Jewish culture doesn't exist any longer. No. How does someone like you help people transition from understanding the ancient situation of Jesus's call and life and action into the sort of movement into the future, and how we should be living as people of that message today, in spirit-led kind of ways?
Well, you started off by talking about the Mars rover as what a remarkable technological advance that is, and how fortunate we are now to have these new breakthroughs in science. Mm-hmm. One of the things I think that we in the church need to recognize is in the last 150 years, we have had enormous breakthroughs in our understanding of our New Testament and actually an understanding of Jesus' world.
Interesting.
Let me just give you a couple of examples. When your average Christian holds the NIV or the ESV Bible translation in their hands, they're actually holding hundreds of years of scholarly research in their hands, taken from thousands and thousands of Greek manuscripts that we today have cataloged so carefully that in prior generations the church never had this kind of thing. So that's one example. I mean, we have today stand on the shoulders of researchers that have really gifted us with amazing things. The other way you can see this, too, is that we today have done advanced archaeological work and advanced cultural work in the world of the first century, and in fact the whole Roman Empire. And in fact, people living 200 years ago or 150 years ago had no idea even what it was like when Jesus had the Lord's Supper.
Wow,
their ideas were pretty much the Renaissance, the Da Vinci painting Renaissance. You have dogs under the table and everyone wearing knickers. What we now know about that world is a revolution, really, in what has gone on before.
I think that's so. I mean, to me, I find that so encouraging to hear. But I could imagine that there's some people, and I've talked to them regularly, who basically tell the story like, look, what Jesus said and did, people understood, and then somewhere along the line, some reformer, in the 1500s, 1700s, pick your period, they had it right. They really got it, and then we have transgressed from the understanding they have. So if we would just get back to understanding the way, you can pick your person, Luther or Calvin or Wesley or whomever you like, if we would just get back to the way they understood it, rather than having been polluted by all these new thinking and capitulations of theological life over the last 100 years, then we would have the kind of faith that we would want to hold to. So what we really need to do is return to a previous time of solid faith. And it sounds like you're saying, well, actually, we need to go back even further, see the context, and then that propels us in our day and age with new understanding and new ways into the future.
Yeah, that's very much what I'm saying. I'm saying that the gospel narratives, the gospel story, is a 2,000-year-old story. And if you were to give me any story from anywhere in the world that was 2,000 years old, I would need a coach to help me get through it.
Right.
To really understand it rightly. So that's what's happening today. There's an exciting new frontier happening, and this book is actually, a part of that.
This is kind of the Mars rover of books, isn't it? This is really the Mars rover landing, the Jesus and the Jewish festivals.
Like
yeah.
I'm sure it's a great book, but let's not.
This is our 7 minutes of terror right here. Yeah.
Yep. When Christians get a hold of a book like this and they read a chapter and they go, "Oh my goodness, I never understood the festival of Passover until now."
Yeah.
And then suddenly they go back and read the gospel and they go, "I get it. So all of that makes for, I think, an exciting opportunity for a Christian who loves the Bible.
I think that's great. What kind of reaction do you? I know that you have the privilege of working with people in their formative ages of being in college, where they really have the freedom to wrestle with these kinds of things. But sort of your average person, who finds themselves busy and they feel like, man, that Bible's already foreign enough. Maybe this is to John's point. The Bible's already complicated enough, and I don't really get it. And they've sort of been told that what you're supposed to be able to do is open the Bible with a like a spiritual, horoscope fortune cookie kind of thing, and just get a nugget out of it, and then take that, and it says it, and you just believe it, and then move forward. What kinds of things are you hearing from your ordinary folks who are running into these ideas?
Well, I'm kind of like Bob Costas at the Olympics.
Nice.
My wife and I were watching the Olympics last night and totally enjoyed, some of the diving, I guess it was, or something like that. Yeah. And, when I look at somebody dive off of that platform and make a lot of turns, or when I look at the gymnastics and I'm watching, last night we were watching gymnastics and these, our dream team, these young girls, do these remarkable things. And I look at it and I think, wow, that's just really fantastic. I am so glad that a commentator steps in, slows down the camera, and it is the greatest moment is when the camera is slow and I watch her make all these movements in slow motion, and then she does the perfect landing, and now I can go back and watch it again in fast motion, and I get it.
Right, and they describe to you what she just did, and then you see it again, and it brings it to life.
And so what I'm really doing is I've got a coach, an interpreter. Bob Costas, or the interpreter is helping me understand, not changing anything that happened, but I do not have the eye to see what just happened. So in many ways, I am like that Olympics interpreter. I'm not changing what happened, but I'm giving people new eyes, new ears, so they can understand what happened, and then their appreciation for what went on in the Gospels or at the Olympics becomes all the more enjoyable.
I think it's a good way to say it. But in some ways, no, you're not changing what happened, but you might be suggesting that people's understanding of what that story actually says isn't what they've always thought that it said, which might even be more difficult for some people to handle, right? Like that you're not changing the story, but you are introducing a new way to understand it, or new meaning that goes with that story. And I would imagine that you'll run into some folks who think that is paramount to actually changing the story itself.
Yes, Gary.
That could happen because, let me give you an example. John 6:35, Jesus says, "I am the bread of life."
Yeah.
Now, you could understand that at one level and think, okay, I know what bread is. Yeah. I have a loaf of bread at home. Therefore, Jesus is like that loaf of bread.
That's going to get moldy, like ours did the other day.
Something like that. But, the truth is that what I do in this book is I say, okay, let's make sure we understand what bread he was talking about. But more than that, when Jesus says, "I am the bread of life," he is in a conversation at Passover with Jewish intellectuals who are actually talking about manna that came from heaven during one of the great events of the Passover season.
Right.
And Jesus is comparing himself with the gift of Moses. So when I take the layers off, people look inside that sentence, "I am the bread of life," and they see that Jesus meant more than we thought, not less.
Yeah. Do you do the same thing? And I'm sorry I haven't looked at this part of the book yet, but do you do the same thing with the John 14, "I am the way, the truth, and the life," which has been used in particular ways in current day theological debates. It's just used in particular ways. And I think that Jesus was saying something there, but probably not talking about a philosophical, epistemological understanding of truth from a Platonic or Descartesian sensibility. Is that one of those phrases that has a festival
that would not
implication?
appear in this particular book, but that would be a good example of that. I mean, what he's really saying is, how do I get from A to B? In other words, there is in John 14 this crisis which is inside of the apostles about, well, where are you going? And if you're going away, how can we follow you there? So
that's what I think
we have to do is see a verse like that and make sure that we anchor it to the larger chapter it's in, and anchor that larger chapter into the context that John has given to us.
Well, I think it sounds like a great gift to people, to invite them into a way of engaging with the Bible and understanding the Bible. Not just where they need an expert like you, but where people who know something about these contexts invite other people to know something about these contexts as well. Right. And so the book.
The other thing I was going to say is that, and in fact, your listeners probably would appreciate this. The book is illustrated, and there is. I asked for certain types of pictures, but there was a professional photo editor who actually went through my text and then illustrated this thing beautifully. So, in order to bring the concept across, you're not just reading about the concept; you're actually seeing photos and reconstructions of these cultural things. And that is, I think, what makes this book have such great universal appeal.
That's great. Well, that's Gary Burge. The book is called Jesus and the Jewish Festivals. Gary, thanks for taking some time to chat with us today. Appreciate it.
Great to be with you.
Right on.
Take care.
And good luck to you with the book. Bye-bye. Hey, that's Gary. I like that stuff. I know, some people think that's a little dry before lunch. They need to go get an extra large drink. But I love that kind of stuff, and I think I do think it matters, and I think it's important, and I think especially, frankly, to really go deep inside the commentators' Olympic commentary, to have an evangelical suggesting that the context of understanding is a crucial part of us taking the Bible seriously, couldn't be better news. So thank you, Gary, for that. And I think that stuff's important. This is Doug Pagitt Radio, broadcasting live out of the Twin Cities, but you can listen to the archives. You can point someone to the video. So if you're not already connected to Doug Pagitt page on Facebook, look at Doug Pagitt and go to the page. I'm glad to have you as my friend, but go to the page and you'll see the videos from the conversations today. You can get connected to all kinds of things also over at DougPagittRadio.com. So until next week, my friends, those of you who are doing what you need to do, hang in there. Keep it up. Stick with it.
Work hard.
It's all going to work out. Work hard, and you're going to get a little click. You're going to get a little payoff. So thanks. We'll talk to you again next week from 10 to 11:30. Doug Pagitt Radio, live out of the Twin Cities.